Alright, hello, it's Jessica. So today I'll be demoing RB Gateway or Review Board Gateway, which is the project that I've been working on for the past month or so. So what RB Gateway is a hosting service that allows users to easily host their remote repositories that are running on a different server than Review Board. There are existing hosting service solutions like GitHub or GitLab, but these have privacy limitations or API limitations that just aren't quite flexible enough for a review board. So what RB Gateway attempts to do is work closely with Review Board to address these issues. And by that I mean providing all the APIs that Review Board needs while still being super easy for the end user to deploy. So I have three consoles running here on the left. The first one is actually a running instance of Review Board. The second one is Git Sandbox, which is just a Git repository that I have for the purposes of this demo. And the bottom one is a running instance of RB Gateway. So right now, Review Board Gateway handles a few API requests like getting the file blob or checking if the file exists. It also has a configuration file where users can configure their repositories. So for example, we have one repository listed here with the name test repo at this path. This path actually corresponds to Git Sandbox that I mentioned earlier. And it also contains authentication information as well as the port which Review Board Gateway is running on. So now let's try to actually add a repository hosted by Review Board Gateway onto Review Board. So if I click Add Repository here, I'm going to see this form which I'm going to fill out. It doesn't really matter what I name the repository for this demo. Let's just call it test repo 1. Hosting service, we're going to call it Review Board Gateway, or we're going to choose Review Board Gateway, and the service URL is just where Review Board Gateway is hosted. In this case, it's localhost 8002 as we specified. The account is actually what's in the configuration file, so the credentials right here. And the repository name is also specified in that config file, and we called it test repo. We are not using a bug tracker service, so I'm just going to go ahead and click save. But before I do that, notice what happens on the bottom console. You will notice that, first of all, it was successfully added. Secondly, Review Board actually sent a post request to Review Board Gateway with the credentials that we provided earlier. And when it does this, Review Board Gateway uses basic authentication to validate the credentials and then returns a session attribute containing a private token which Review Board can then use in future API requests. So before we RPT post using Git Sandbox, there's actually just one more step, and that's setting up the .reviewboard RC file so that it actually points to the review board repository. So we just go ahead here and add this file. We're going to change it to point to the review board server that we have, which is localhost 8080. Save that. Let's also add another file just for testing purposes. So we're going to call this test file, save this. And then now we can add these files, commit it, add it, .reviewboard RC, and now we can do RPT post, and it should post to our review board server pointing to the correct repository. So it did post successfully, but you may have also noticed two head requests being sent to Review Board Gateway server. This is asking whether those two files actually existed, and Review Board Gateway is returning with a 200 OK, yes they did. So if we just copy this address and go to this review request, we can actually view the diff and see that the files were successfully there. You may have also noticed that this sent a GET request to RB Gateway, getting the file contents so that we can actually see this diff. So let's go ahead and publish this. So published successfully. Let's modify the test file that we added earlier and try to RPT post update. Well, I gotta commit first, so let's do that. Git commit modified test. Then now we can do RPT post update. And this should indeed find the review request and update appropriately. So we just go back here and view the diff. We can see between revisions with no issue. So this kind of concludes my demo. I still have a lot of work I want to do with review board gateways, such as supporting more SCM aside from Git, such as Mercurial, and I want to provide more advanced features that review board can use. So hopefully my demo wasn't too boring. Goodbye.